I'm aware that I'm not much to look at, but even though I'm thin, I'm very strong.
Just socks him.
Let me demonstrate my strength to you. Hello.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Hi, hi, hi.
Hi. Okay, so we're doing another episode of Pineapple and Lemon.
Woo! What are we doing today?
We are watching a Canadian show.
Yay for Canadian shows.
Woo! Canadian shows. Okay, we're doing Anne with an E, which is based off of the Anne of Green Gables series.
Yes, the Lucy Maud Montgomery book series that has been adapted many times, movies, TV shows, animes.
Animes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Cool.
Did you ever read about these books in school?
I didn't read these in school.
No?
No, I didn't read these in school. And because I wasn't much of a reader, I never read these for luxury either. So I've never read the series,
Okay.
but I did know of them.
The icon herself.
The icon herself. I knew, like, she is Canadian based. She's from the Maritimes. Like, I knew
PEI.
PEI.
I didn't necessarily learn about Anne of Green Gables at school, but I love these books. I read these books a lot. There's a lot of them. It starts with Anne of Green Gables when she's an orphan and she goes to live at Green Gables, and it goes and follows her along to her youngest child becoming an adult. But there's a whole history with Anne of Green Gables, and this newest adaptation of it is called Anne with an E.
So this was my first real introduction to it, and because it was a period piece and I knew of the character, I was like, oh, let's watch it and check it out. I gotta say, the first couple episodes was really hard to get into because I found her very annoying.
But
then you kind of get used to it, and you realize that that's just her quirkiness. I was very impressed with the storytelling. I was very impressed that it was mostly a Canadian cast. It was filmed in Canada. Now, I will say I am disappointed that they canceled it.
Yeah.
Especially with how, like, what they were leading up to and what the last season was heavily discussing.
I think with the show in particular is that the books were written a long time ago, and they're taking the source material and putting a twist on it that modernizes how things are. It doesn't follow the books exactly. There are quite a few deviations from them, but they're making it for a modern audience. I think that's part of why this show hit with some people and maybe didn't hit with other people, because it's set in a previous time, but the intentions of the show reflect what's happening nowadays. So for people that are like, well, it's not period accurate, that's not what they're trying to do with the show.
Yeah. I would say, like, for it to be a period piece, there are certain elements that people do look for in historical accuracy, but it's usually made very clear from the first couple episodes whether they're going to be historically, like, 100% historically accurate or historically accurate to a point. This is the plot synopsis for those of you who have not heard of this or who have not seen this. The television series, which we're talking about, Anne with an E, is the adventure of a young orphan girl living in the early 19th century. Follow Anne with an E as she learns to navigate her new life on Prince Edward Island in this new take on L.M. Montgomery's classic novels.
So we are just watching the first episode today. If you have any interest in us doing more episodes from this series or checking something else out, you can give us some suggestions down below.
Yes, of course. We are always open to suggestions.
That horse is walking on water.
Magic!
Do you know anything from the books, or do you care if I say things from
You
the
can
books?
say things from the book.
So Matthew dies in the first book.
Oh, rip. Okay.
So obviously their relationship's like a really important part of the show.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see it be able to be fleshed out more. But yeah, he doesn't last very long in the books. The thing about this show is they play a lot with almost like PTSD with Anne. The first couple episodes of this show do feel like a darker, more serious telling of Anne of Green Gables, which is why it took me a little while to get into the show, because I was just not like on the right wavelength with it. So I did, like, the first couple episodes, I remember like struggling, being like, is this what I want from this show? Like,
yeah, I knew I had to give it like a little bit because, like I said, like the biggest thing that I remember is just like the character of Anne just being so annoying.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know that this is her. I just don't know if we're like doing like overkill or anything.
Yeah. Beautiful landscape. Lovely to see some Canadian landscapes.
I know. I love the shots in this. They're so beautiful.
You haven't been to Prince Edward Island, have you?
I have not been to PEI. I've been to Newfoundland, but I haven't been to the other Maritimes.
Yeah. I haven't gone out east.
I wouldn't know. Try to rest.
Same. I was like, oh,
That
what?
woman's just like, okay.
You would not be without friends. I love Jane Eyre.
Do you love Jane Eyre?
I never read it.
I know you're saying Anne can be like a bit precocious and maybe a little annoying at times,
Mm-hmm.
but there's something about, especially when I was reading these books, just the thought that you should be having imagination as a kid that I just loved.
Well, I think that's what it took me a while because like at first it was like it almost seemed very obnoxious and like in your face, but then as you kind of like settle into the character, you're like, you know what? Everybody's got a little bit of Anne in them.
Yeah.
I'm aware that I'm not much to look at, but even though I'm thin, I'm very strong.
Just socks him.
Let me demonstrate my strength to you.
Picks up the bench and throws it.
Picks up the train.
And if it isn't carried a certain way, it falls right open, so I better keep it. I've come to know the exact knack of it.
It bangs it on the bench.
All your worldly possessions shattered.
To be honest, I haven't had much experience at it. I'm not usually brought into the house to be a daughter, so...
How long do you think these scripts are for her monologues?
Oh my god, yeah, she speaks in monologues.
What did that cherry tree all white and lacy make you think of?
Well, no, I don't know.
Yeah, you ask a hard question there.
He's like, we're picking up a kid to help with farm work, and he's expecting like maybe a 2.
Yeah.
She's like 100. He's like, I did not prepare for this. I did not get the memo.
But I think what's nice about Matthew is, yes, he looks very overwhelmed, but you can also see that he's curious about her and wanting to know more about this kid.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a huge part of him, is like, he doesn't talk much, but he likes hearing her talk.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely like more like company. Like he's not used to it. Like 'cause it's been just him and his sister.
Yeah, he doesn't need to carry a conversation necessarily. He just likes...
He just needs to smile and nod.
Yeah.
She just talks and she's fine with it.
Yeah, they're both happy in the circumstance.
Yeah, they're both content.
What might cause him to leave his crop in the middle of the afternoon?
None of your business, nosy.
I just came by wondering something. Spill all the details.
Now you see why I can't be perfectly happy. Nobody could who has red hair. It's my lifelong sorrow.
How do you feel about this statement?
I mean, I'm not naturally redheaded, so I can't really comment on the matter. But I think red is a lovely color, and I wish it was my natural color. Because then I wouldn't be spending money to dye it every couple months.
How could you not?
Matthew is getting on in years and his heart's been bothering him.
You can tell that they're like classically trained as like for theater.
Yeah.
Just in the way that they speak.
Mm-hmm. Is it more like how they're interacting with each other though, or
It's how they're in their delivery, how they're speaking, because I find that you have like almost in TV, like sometimes like you will put on a voice, but the voice in which they're putting on is more of a theatrical voice. But it's usually with like the older actors that you can tell that a lot of them were classically trained in theater versus camera. But then it's also kind of nice like when you go and you watch more of like the Canadian style Hallmark films that you see some of these older actors in it, and you can tell that like they are a part of Canadian acting, which is nice to kind of see that they're supporting local.
yeah.
And it's not all American actors, or to say that they don't have to leave Canada to continue to act. They can get bigger roles and still stay in Canada.
Yeah, because this show definitely feels very Canadian, notwithstanding like just the fact that it was written by a Canadian. Like there was more put into it than just that. Gotta make sure my braids are facing the right way.
And now they're not. And now they are. Look at that movie. Oh, now they're not. Oh, movie magic.
Could you please spell it with an E when you speak it? Anne with an E looks much more distinguished.
I don't know why this makes sense to me, but it makes sense to me. Adding the E to Anne, I don't know why. But it is like, it just sounds different in my head.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I like would spell Anne, I would spell it with an E. Like that's how it's spelt to me.
I would spell it with an E because of these books. Like that's a big part, is it's Anne with an E.
Well, did you ever imagine that you're in the depths of despair?
No, I didn't.
Well, it's a very uncomfortable feeling indeed.
You're telling me the depths of despair aren't comfortable?
What?
What?
I've grown quite comfortable down there.
What?
Not even if it was a chocolate caramel.
They got so many candles going. They're having a lovely little dinner.
Talking about depths of despair.
Yeah. Common dinner talk.
In the days before electricity,
Only candles.
only candles. I would have loved it.
I do like a candle, but I also like turning on a light. So
I hate lights.
How can you call it a good night when you know this must be the very worst night I've ever had?
You should have known the can of worms you were opening when you said good night. You should have just turned the candle off and left.
you should have turned the candle
Turned
off.
the candle off and left. I said what I said.
Flick a switch.
Blow it out. Or grab the little like Scoopy thing and go boop.
Yes. That whole sentence. Grab the little Scoopy thing.
Scoopy thing. Y'all know what I meant.
The girl will have to be sent back.
Yep, I suppose so.
Matthew's like, but what if no? We kept girl?
Matthew Cuthbert.
Oh my god, it kills me. They're brother and sister and they still have to be like full name.
Well,
Formality.
you know,
Let's
when
settle down.
I feel like if anyone were to do it though, it would be Marilla.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
She goes around calling people by their full names. Really just stern.
You never know when you're in trouble. It's such a cute home,
Love me a Green Gables.
right?
Picks up the most delicate object.
Yeah, right?
Of course, you must make up your mind firmly. I believe this is something that you and I have in common.
You call me firm?
Well, thank you.
Yeah, she would see that as a compliment.
I wish I was a seagull. They're the most carefree of all the birds, don't you think?
They are most definitely not the most carefree.
They're savage.
We'll call on her and see. I'm sure she'll agree.
I love it.
Whoa.
What more to show chaos than just a crying baby?
Yeah, smashed cut to crying baby.
Please let me stay at Green Gables. Please let me be good looking when I grow up.
Priorities.
The most important things. She's escaped.
She's made a break for it. Check the silverware.
I'll check the silverware.
Wow.
Puff sleeves are divine.
You say that, but then you try them on and you're like, nah, I'm good.
I think it's a very particular type of style.
Old Lady Adams
Yes.
said you were gawky.
Yes.
We understand, Matthew.
And it just keeps going.
And this, and then they said this, and this.
But they also said this. Matthew, I get it.
Punish me any way you like. Shut me up in a dark, damp dungeon and I shan't complain.
You think they just have a dungeon lying around?
Sure, you could find one. She's got an imagination.
Chicken coop.
Chicken coop.
I mean, she wanted to stay at Green Gables. If she refuses to leave her room, she can stay as long as she wants.
Oh, it's just like, you're here on trial. And then she does this for her, like, what, second day?
Yeah. It's really not in her best interest.
Yeah, I was like, babe, it's just nut up. And sometimes, you know, this is a good life lesson. Sometimes you just have to say you're sorry, even if you really aren't, just so you
Yes.
can get out of the punishment.
I am a dreadfully wicked and ungrateful girl and I deserve to be punished.
She really gives her all, eh?
Okay, so I can do, you know, here's like a level 2, you know, say I'm sorry, just be done with it. Or I can crank it up to 20 notches.
Crank it more. Crank it more.
200!
I look forward to never minding what you say again.
Well, she did ask for it.
Yeah, she kind of walked into that one. The side eye. The smile. She's like, I did good.
I hope you try to control your temper better in the future.
I will. I absolutely will.
She, in fact, will not.
Yeah, right. 2 weeks later. And she did not.
Gonna go push him out the window.
Can you imagine?
We have a Game of Thrones scene coming up here.
Yeah, we do.
Exert any negative influence, I'm sure you can understand.
So he's coming over here to vet her. To be like, are you good enough to talk to my children? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, it's so weird.
Why even bother coming over?
Yeah, right.
We must appear neighborly, but also, if she's not good enough, she's out of here.
Yeah, right. You must get rid of her.
Good afternoon.
Could you put more sass into that?
I love it.
Life would be an agony, an utter agony.
Agony.
Agony! That's all I picture now. Every time I hear that word.
Me too.
It's the only thing I liked about that movie.
Yeah, I don't even like that movie either. I just remember
The
that
one
part.
scene.
This kind isn't wicked at all. It means vowing and promising solemnly.
Blood pact, blood pact.
Let me get the knife.
Tomorrow you will go at first light.
I know this is like an inciting incident and everything, but I hate stuff like this. Just like general misunderstandings.
Yeah. Do they like rake the dirt every day? Because like that'd be some fresh tracks.
Yeah, those really left a mark. Man, they couldn't even get one of them to bring her back. Eh? They called for a taxi.
It was too much to hook up the horse and wagon.
Yeah. Marilla.
Womp,
Silly
womp.
left it in the side
Of
cushion.
course.
You sure you checked everywhere?
Are you sure? Because it didn't look like it to me.
You've made a grave mistake.
Oh, I made a mistake! Ticket to the next train! I need a ticket!
Follow that train.
Get the horse, let's go!
I've talked about before, this isn't like my favorite episode of this series.
Well, it's a lot of it's like set up too, and then the next one they do, if I'm remembering correctly, they do spend quite a lot of time at the asylum until Matthew gets there to kind of
and like
rescue her.
none of that is in the books, and I didn't particularly want to see that necessarily while watching this show because it's so much about the location and the people. And I feel like we just got here and they're already leaving. I wish
Yeah, it doesn't.
it
drive,
wasn't
it drive,
happening
doesn't drive
so
the story
quick.
forward. It kind of is like an adjacent or behind.
And I know what they're trying to do with this series. They're focusing more on like why Anne is the way she is, and that's a big part of the direction they took. It's just personally, I don't like it as much.
Yeah, like for me, it was definitely a lot of like setup. I found.
I mean, it is
And
a premiere.
it is a premiere, yeah. So it's gonna have a lot of setup. And for me, like when I watched this the first round through, it did take me a while to get used to Anne. A lot of quirkiness up front.
Yeah.
And it's like nobody is this quirky, but people have quite a lot of similar traits. It's just like it's just a very
It's-
condensed form.
It's funny because like it is so close to how she is in the books. So I don't know if I necessarily, the way you read something and the way you hear something can sound differently too. So when I was reading them, I never felt a certain way about her because it was just like, yeah, she just speaks more flowery. But when you see someone acting it, it might have a different feel to it too.
It feels like the language is definitely very flowery. It's like I read a dictionary. I got to use all these words. But she very much she speaks very much in monologues.
Yes. But that's true. Like that's Anne
Yeah.
Shirley. Like that's the character.
Yeah.
So.
And I think like as someone who has never read the books, like I wouldn't have known that. So for me to go into this blind, essentially, it was like, this is a very weird way of talking. Like who speaks in monologues aside from like Shakespeare characters? And then it kind of like, you get used to it and it makes more sense. Like this is just how she talks.
Well, then it also kind of mimics how everyone else around her feels about her because they are very put off by her initially.
Until they get to know her a bit more and then, they warm up, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly how I felt. So I was like very immersed into it because like everyone was put off by her at first, but then you get to know her, you get used to her, and you're like, oh yeah, she's not that bad. She's pretty
so then
great.
maybe it did exactly what it planned to do.
It did exactly what it planned to do, which is great.
Yeah, I'd say overall this series, I do enjoy it a lot. The more you get into it, the more I feel it gets stronger, in my opinion.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think I would recommend watching the show if you have any sort of interest in this kind of coming of age type storytelling. I think it's well done. I think it's a good watch.
Well, I think regardless of the age too, like it is very much like a coming of age, and I feel like audiences around the age marking that Anne is, like, preteen, like experiencing, going through your teenage years and if you're able to follow the story of Anne as she gets older and matures, it's a bit more relatable. But even as like someone who's a bit older going and watching this, there's still moments that you can relate to, like, oh yeah, I did that, or you know, like you still kind of relate to it. And I think that's the thing that I enjoy the most about it. It is very, it's not like fantastical. It's very like real.
Yeah.
And it's very, very much like anybody can relate to different things and aspects of the show.
Yeah. And I think, like we said, maybe the show ended a little prematurely.
I think it should have had at least one more season, because it was very clear the show did not know that it was getting canceled. And I always hate it when they do that to shows. Like, give them at least, 2 to 3 episodes to do a nice send off. Don't just hard cut cliffhanger. And it's like, at least thankfully this didn't have a hard cut cliffhanger. Like, I'm thankful for that. Like, it did seem like it was like wrapped up pretty nice. But it would have been nice to see, her go through college and become a teacher and, get married to who and start that
Voldemort.
And just start that journey and to kind of like grow with the character and how they address other issues that pop up. Like, it would have been nice to see. And I am really bummed out that they canceled it and they're not reviving it.
They ended it at such a place that was just perfect for a lot of potential for more to happen.
Yes.
So I think that's why people are like, oh, what could have been? It seemed like it was going in a really fun direction. So
it did.
I think that's why people are upset that it ended.
I think what upsets me more is that there were so many petitions that were going around to get people like, to continue it. And a lot of the people were on board for it. And then CBC was just like, and no.
But I mean, at least like go out on a good note,
Yeah, I think that's the thing that we can say is that it didn't end on a bad note. It didn't end on a cliffhanger. Like it ended at the end of like a journey.
Yeah, it was
about
like
to start anew.
It was kind of like the first arc had just been wrapped up and we were going on to the next one, but they were like, never mind.
Yeah, they I think they ended it before the point of no return.
Yeah. It wasn't like a midway through storylines or anything.
It had nicely finished. We finished like story 1. Now we're gonna start story 2. Oh, just kidding. We don't have the funding to do it, so we're not doing it. So it ended fine. I'm just bummed out that I don't get to see a more like a modern version, like remake of Anne. I mean, there again, it's like you said, there's so many different Anne of Green Gables. There's an anime, there's movies, there's TV shows, there's plays. Like, there's so much of it available. You even go right to the source, go read the books. Like, there's so much if you want more of it. I just wish we could explore with this cast and
the storylines,
the storyline that the writers and directors had envisioned of where it was going to go. But unfortunately, we won't get to see that.
Yeah, because I think if you make another adaptation, and they will eventually.
Oh, yes.
It won't be this story, because this was one of the most diverted from the original source, so I don't see them following through on any of these storylines.
Yeah, it won't be the story. It won't be the same actors. It's going to be completely different actors, directors, writers. The whole thing's going to be different. Don't even know if they're going to shoot it in Canada. Like, it's going to be different.
They just have you wanting more.
They just have you wanting more?
Yeah.
But isn't that what they want? They want to leave you wanting more and then just disappoint you because they can't do it.
Better to end on a high note.
Yes, definitely. And on that high note,
hey! You're done. Thank you so much for watching with us.
It's been a blast and a half.
Had a really good time.
As always.
You could like this video.
Or subscribe, even better.
If you want to see something for us to watch in the future, like a movie or a TV show, please let us know in the comments.
And we'll get on that right away for you.
Yeah.
Woohoo!